Good morning. How are you, Jerome?
Good morning, Norma. I'm doing excellent. Excellent. How
Good,
are you doing?
good. I'm doing good. I love that music to count down to because it's kind of jazzy and kind of R&B all in the same, make me want to dance.
Yeah, so one of the things people always, how you doing? I'm good. How you doing? I'm good. People always say I'm good. So tell me what's good. Like really, people just say it, but I want to hear like what's really good.
What's really good is today the sun is shining, but
Mhm.
yesterday it was raining and I need the rain so I don't have to water my plants. But it's good just to be alive and
Okay.
well, just
Yes.
that basic thing. How about that?
I,
What's
I agree with that. And I want to address what you say. So you have a lot of conversations with people, and I can honestly say I never heard you like complain.
really?
Yes, like complain, like oh my, like you don't have control over anything. So I appreciate that about you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, I think that I'm glad that you appreciate that. I'm not really a complainer except to my husband. And I try not to complain to him sometimes because sometimes I just want him to listen and if I make a complaint, he'll try to fix it. That's not
Yeah,
really,
that's men.
yeah, you don't have to fix everything, baby. It's just the way life is, I can accept it. I'm a big girl. Yeah.
That's men. And I was having a conversation, and or I was listening to something, and now what I do when I'm talking to, when I say, or people in general, I'll say, do you want me to help you solve a problem, or do you want me to listen? Like which one do you
Yeah.
want?
That's
That
good. That's
helps.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah, because sometimes they do just want you to listen.
yeah.
I agree. So yeah, speaking of solving problems, there is a big problem in Florida with short-term rental hosts as far as the the amount of guests that they used to have. They had the privilege of hosting. So
Which
in
part of Florida is it? The entire Florida or certain
Well,
section?
Orlando, specifically what I'm talking about today, because I have some friends that have some short term rentals in Orlando.
Okay.
And they actually called me and asked me if I wanted to buy a short term rental down there after telling me that, Disney World is experiencing a 50% decline in uh, visitors. It's funny they didn't make me that offer when things were going really good. But I declined it. And so, it's unfortunate that Disney World is probably one of the largest employers in Florida, and the tourists bring a lot of commerce to that area. And so, yeah, the short term rental owners there, one told me she was making $30,000 a month. She has several units, and now she is not making that amount of money. So she's struggling to pay her mortgages. She doesn't have mortgages on all of them, but yeah, and she doesn't own all of them. But the point is that the visitorship is down. And to be honest with you, um, I love Disney World. I've been there, but I'm just so sorry that they're going through that. Uh,
Why are they going through that? What is the issue?
well, a lot of people think Disney World is closed down because of the issues with the governor. It's an unusual fight that's going on between the governor and the largest employer in Florida, which doesn't make sense to me because it's just like the auto industry. When you have the auto industry, say, for example, in Detroit, I would say 9 out of 10 jobs have something to do, even if they don't work with those manufacturers, they're peripheral businesses that supply food, um, cleaning products, part-time staffing, landscaping, all these different contractors and different businesses that supply and support Disney World. Um, are their employees are being laid off, and the short-term rental hosts, there are not as many guests coming because I was under the impression that Disney World was closed down because of all the um, the strife that's going on between the governor and Disney World. So it's really is very very sad that it's happening. So those short-term rental home owners are suffering because of that. Not only them, but lots of different other industries as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's I want to give a shout out to them down there and tell them to hang in there. And that is particularly, like I said, around the Orlando area. Although, when you had a hurricane that hit, I forget the specific area what it was called, but I'm sure there was short-term rentals there as well. And those buildings and everything got wiped out. So it's a tough place. I mean, it's a great place to have short-term rentals. However, you have to deal with the government and the strife between the government and uh, Disney World, and you have to deal with hurricanes that are coming in and wiping your the area out, and then you don't have visitors to come, and so those are some of the things that they have to deal with. So, like I said, I have some friends that have short-term rentals there, and some in Tampa though, and they're doing really good. So I'm happy to say that. Shout out to them. And so that's what's going on, and just dealing with the weather. And you just saw in the Northeast where they had those uh, floods and those torrential rains where it rained one day, it rained enough for a whole month in one day, so the places got flooded. That shuts down your short-term rentals business as well. So you always have to have, I want to say, a backup plan or be able to make sure that you can weather these types of storms. So it's not all about just making money, but it's about being prepared for any type of disaster, political.
Yeah, like pop-ups. Like, are you familiar with the black swan term?
Black swan. No, what is that?
Black swan is like some kind of unpredicted event that happens and it affects things. So, a good example. I don't know if the 2008 housing crashes is a good example, but COVID is a really great example. Like something that just came out of nowhere and
Mm,
affected like all of these things. So, I guess
yeah.
they would be like mini black swans inside of your like short-term rental business because you never know and it's hard to prepare for that kind of stuff. Like
So
random,
true.
yeah.
So true. So, but on the other hand, Jerome, actually, I know a lot of people suffered during the pandemic as far as short-term rentals. But on the other hand, since the hotels were closed, there are a lot of short-term rentals that did really well because people couldn't go to a hotel. So that had it were there were less, obviously there were less people traveling. So the demand went way down. So some of the people had to close, like I said before. That's why I didn't like our arbitrage,
Uh-huh.
because after you're renting a place from, say, an apartment complex, and you sign a contract saying no matter whether there's a black swan or not, you're going to
Mhm.
pay the rent. So that's why I don't like the arbitrage, because you just never know what's going to happen, and I don't want to be in that situation. So yeah, it's a big risk. Hmm. So yeah, I didn't know that that's what it was called. So I'm switching gears here.
Okay.
So here in Columbus, what is kind of affecting short-term rentals is the fact that, uh, well, since I'm a developer, we had a tax abatement program that was going on in areas that need revitalization. And so that program is a good program. However, now they are changing it so that if you, because I not only do short-term rentals, I provide housing for medium term, and I have done long term as well. Uh, but the problem with long term, if you don't get a good tenant, they can really destroy a property. Oh my goodness. And you can really never get your money back, because some of the things that they do, like one tenant put sugar down in my HVAC system in the ducts. And who does that?
Why? Why was it destructive, intentional, malicious, or was it just like
It
maybe a
was,
kid did it?
they didn't own it and they didn't care. That's what it was, you know. But I think probably their kids put the sugar down
Okay.
in the ducts. But who wouldn't watch their kids? And because if it was their property, that would never happen, I don't think. But anyway, my point is, since they are changing the rules here with the tax abatement, that it is mandatory that you do affordable housing, which I get because we need affordable housing. But on the other hand, if you are building new buildings, you have to deal with higher interest rates. You have to deal with the materials that have gone up. So it becomes very difficult to build within the parameters so that you can make the rent affordable because the mortgages may not be affordable. So they have to think about everybody involved. But they're saying only 50% of the units have to be uh, affordable, which is better than all of them, right?
Hmm.
But I just don't think they understand what it's like to be a housing provider if you're really trying to provide something nice. Because my thing is, I don't really like to buy really old houses because of the unstable foundations. I love the character and the architecture of the homes, but you know, I was in an older house the other day, and this house was built in 1899. Well, I could see outside when I was in the basement. It was cracks because these are just boulders or stones, irregular shaped stones put
Hmm.
together with mortar in between them. So it's very hard to, if they need repair, you got to find the pinholes. And sometimes they're not even visible, but they're there. So you got a lot of water intrusion and a lot of causes the house to be very, um, with a lot of humidity, you know, and just moisture. So there's mold growth. So I prefer really to do something new. And that's why they have urban renewal programs because, those old fashioned uh, foundations, they are just not stable and they don't keep water out well at all. Yeah. So that was the other issue here I'm facing here in Columbus. But I do appreciate the fact that they're trying to make sure we have affordable housing. But I just need to see if we can get a balance. For example, what they could do is like, okay, so if you're saying we have to provide affordable housing, but if we're building something new, why can't you make the suppliers give us a reduced price, right? Make our materials more affordable. So that across the board it shouldn't just be the person, the developer, it should be the suppliers as well. Wouldn't that be fair?
Yes.
But they don't include the suppliers, just the developers. So anyway, that's an issue that we are dealing with, or at least I'm dealing with here in Columbus. I think I understand affordable housing, but I think if you make it so that if you are building new builds and you want to provide a property that's free of maintenance and have a good foundation, that kind of thing, that's my concern. Why not have a program where the suppliers are able to give or get some kind of supplement to provide a lower cost for materials?
Makes
Hmm.
sense to me.
Hmm. Yeah, so that's what's going on here. And so what do you think about that?
Um, Similar to one of the prior episodes, I think it's like a tricky thing to explore, but I think we need to explore it and we need to have conversations versus the government or the regulators just saying this group do this or this group do that. There needs to be like some kind of discussion and a roundtable with everyone involved because, like I said last time, um, two parties. It was a party against short term rentals and a party for short term rentals. both, like objectively, both made really, really strong arguments.
Mhm.
And they were both correct in the things that they were saying, and we need to meet. So the same idea, right? And maybe it's not two this time, maybe it's four: the suppliers, the landlords, as well as the government organization, and maybe uh, whoever. We just have a
Mhm.
discussion and we come somewhere and we meet in the middle somewhere. So I think that's how we need to address it and start to talk about it. And that's also part of the reason why I like providing like educational information to people,
Mhm.
because and I like to talk about stuff that everybody doesn't talk about. So that's one of the reasons why I appreciate you and this show that we're doing together, because it can get the conversation out there.
Yeah, and that's a really good conversation to have, like you said, in terms of tax abatements to stimulate new buildings in an area. But it also, it for me, it should also, if they want to make sure there's affordable housing, I think they should um, require the suppliers to give us a better price. Or, and they do have a program here, though, it's the Housing Trust Authority, where they give you a lower interest loan because, but they do require you to have certain number of units to be affordable. So there is money out there with a lower interest rate. So keep that in mind, folks. In your area, you could check out those kinds of programs. hmm So
You done?
actually, those are the two things that I wanted to talk about.
Okay. Well, I have something I want to talk about.
Yes,
I want
sir.
to put you on the spot.
Okay.
So, how can we get in touch with Norma? You offer services and you help people in this field somehow. How do we get in touch with you?
Well, I am in the process of putting together my website, normarichards.com. And that's number one. Or you can go to my email address, which is happy spaces, and happy is spelled HAPPEE spaces.com. So I don't use the Y, I use two E's instead. So happy spaces at gmail.com. So you can contact me that way, and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
Okay. And then, so I got some more pressure. We
hmm
were supposed to be putting together a book,
Exactly.
right?
hmm
Um, when do you think we can get that done?
Well, the good thing is,
Wait, let me see. Who you edited your last book?
oh no, I
No?
did not
Okay.
edit my last book. My book was edited by a lady named Jocelyn,
Okay.
Jocelyn Ross. Yeah,
Okay. You wrote it?
I did write it,
Okay.
but
How was that process?
I can't edit my own material.
You
But
typed it out?
did I type it out? What I did, I wrote it out
Okay.
and then I typed it out. Um, because when thoughts came to my mind, I wrote, I had a book with me all the time. I lost it one time and I had to start all over. But anyway, I came up with like an outline that I
Okay.
put on the computer. But I did carry this book around with me. It's like a spiral notebook, and I jotted down thoughts when I had them. But now, then after that, I did use my phone to
Mhm.
dictate. You can go to the voice recorder, and I just
Okay.
record when a thought came to my mind, and I would just record. And I actually wrote that while I was teaching because um, you when you're teaching, I was a science teacher. I'm always trying to figure out ways to engage students, and so when I would come up with creative ways to engage the students in the classroom, it would I would relate that to the book, and so I would use those experiences to inspire me on how what content to put in the book. So I did that voice recorder as well. That's
Okay.
when the feature came on the phones.
Okay. So, I would like for us to like start working on that book, right? Put you on the spot on the podcast.
Mhm.
Um, I think so. One of the really good structures to do, like to start getting the book together, is to think about like the most common questions that people have around your particular topic of expertise. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Do you think you can come up with 12 questions?
Absolutely. 12
Okay.
most common questions.
Yeah, top 12 most common questions that people ask you around either you as a developer or short-term rentals.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. And that's essentially what that is. That is the outline. That
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. Like each one and each chapter we will address that question in a lot of detail and it'll be just one chapter. Make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's what I want to do. And for our guests that are watching, that's one of the services that we provide. We help you put together a nonfiction book so you can sell it and you can, educate your customer, your client on whatever it is that you're doing. We'll do the same thing for Norma, and we're going to get a book done probably in 90 days or less.
Nice. Well, I I just want to give one little tidbit,
Mhm.
which is going to be a chapter in the book, but I'm just going to
Okay.
give this away.
Okay.
So the top question that I get really is, I think the most relevant question is, how do I start? But what I think people should do, first of all, is determine where you want to do the short-term rental and whether it's a single family home, a condo with a homeowners association, or is it an apartment where you live, or what is the situation? So that is going to really dictate how you start. So
Okay.
that's my first tip.
All right.
Determine
So that's
what
the, and
building.
that'll be inside of the book, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we got a chapter one pretty much done already. We got maybe 11 more to go. 12 is a lot,
Hmm.
but I'd rather have too much than too little, and then we take some stuff away. Makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well,
Okay.
I'm excited. I'm happy to put this together because that way I can refer people. Just like when I wrote the book Free Ride to College, when
Mhm.
I sent all of my kids to college on full academic scholarships, people always ask me, "Well, how did you do that?" That's what triggered me to write the book
Mhm.
because I wanted to talk about it, but obviously I couldn't talk all day.
Mhm.
Although my husband says I probably could, but anyway. Best way to communicate is to put it in a book. So I
Mhm.
was happy to do that. Hmm.
Okay. All
And
right.
then
I appreciate you.
to review everything that I've learned, because I've been doing this since 2017.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's a pretty long time. That's 6 years.
Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
So we're going to do a book. We're going to do a course,
Hmm.
and we're going to start referring people to those resources so they have something so they can go and implement these things that we're talking about.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Likewise, I appreciate you, Norma. I'm going to end us.
Okay.
All right.
All righty. Thank you.